Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk. Back again with you guys for another show, for another episode of our Let's Talk Arsenal series, in which I'm joined today by several guests to talk about plenty of things regarding Arsenal and specifically Arsenal's transfer window, and trying to work out whether or not this has in fact been a good transfer window for Arsenal or not. There's been lots of debates going on social media as to whether or not it has been that good of a window for Arsenal. We've spent more than any other team in the Premier League, and yet, of course, there is still questions from plenty of you guys in the chat boxes, on Twitter, on social media, trying to work out whether or not this was a necessary window in which we've done plenty of things that we needed to, or we should have done a bit more and got a few more players out and gotten a few more crucial starting players into the team. Now, I remember sitting here a few months ago saying, I think we need 3 to 4 starting players. Now, at the moment, it looks to be only 2 have come in so far, one of them being Martin Odegaard and Ben White. Sambi Lokonga, I don't think you look at as a starter over either Granit Xhaka and Partey right now on paper. Of course, I know a lot of you would rather, including me, see Sambi Lokonga play alongside Thomas Partey over Granit Xhaka. But it is really Ben White, and it is really Odegaard. Ramsdale could be a starter in the future, as could Lokonga. Tavares is very much a backup to Kieran Tierney. So we haven't got the 3 to 4 starters as of yet. There is still, of course, time in the window, and we will revisit this topic at the end of the August transfer window. But with there being so much discussion around this topic, I wanted to go into it with some guests who are going to be joining us throughout the show. If you would like to get involved in a future phone-in, then make sure you keep watching the shows. I let people know well ahead of time. We've told people in this morning's transfer show, and plenty of you guys got in touch to get involved with today's show. And in a bit, we'll be joined by a few guests to go through plenty of stuff. But first of all, let's go into the chat box and see what you guys are saying. Bro Pro says, joining me at 12 a.m. in Malaysia. Bro Pro, you're mad. You can watch these on catch up. What are you doing up so late? Go to bed, son. But I appreciate the support as always. Matt says, we will have had a successful transfer window when we bring in a new manager. Now, Matt, I'm not sure that you know how the transfer window works. It's not for coaches, son. You can do that all year round. So you'll be happy to know, even when the window closes on August 30th or 31st or September 1st, whenever it is, that you'll still be able to change managers. So don't you worry. Tis Disgust says, exactly, spending so much money and only having 2 starters. Ridiculous. If you take an honest look, what's the point of squad depth if you don't have a proper 11. David Blashik says, I'd like to see a new right back coming into the team. Let's see what you guys think out of 10. I want to get your thoughts. Out of 10, how good has this window been? You can provide me with some explanation as well, if you like. But I want to know out of 10 how good this window has been for you. Tom H says 6 out of 10. Still need to clear out some players and get in a right back to make it a good one. We will do it, fingers crossed. I mean, for me, if we were to say get in a right back of real quality, it would bump it up for me. I'll reveal at the end of the show kind of how I'm feeling about the current state of affairs in the window. Nathan says, Lee says you're a fraud and have an agenda. Don't shoot the messenger. Oh, you know, Lee's entitled to say what he likes. Yeah, you do what you want. Temi says 5 out of 10. Pablo says 6. Lamra says 4. On says 5. Evening, Omar. Nice to have you here. Harvey says 6 out of 10. Omar, a generous 4. Premier League chat says 7.5 out of 10. Ultima says 4. Nathan says 8.5 out of 10. James says 8 out of 10. David Blashik says 7. George says 7. 360 David says 6 out of 10. Still have a few players to get rid of. George Davies says 7 out of 10. There's a lot of different kind of variables with this. Ronald says 6 out of 10. 2 starters, more dead without. Need a right back badly. Bogdan says 7.5 out of 10. Here says 7 out of 10. PAPP says 7 out of 10, but no one in history have ever been bringing in more than 25 players. I mean, we can't expect a million players to come in. It's just not realistic. But what I can think we can expect from the club is to improve the starting 11. And we've only done that to a modicum of degree so far. Munir says 5 out of 10. Akil says 7 out of 10. Navarro says 5. Willian and Bellerin is still here. And it's a very Good point. Vishal says 8 if we get rid of Willian, Bellerin, and Kolasinac. You says would be a 10 out of 10 if we got in a right back and a striker. Muster says 8 out of 10 just simply for their gorgeous kits. Edward says, question, is this window the one that gets you most excited from past years? Ironically, no. Even though we've spent a hell of a lot and we could end up spending more than we've ever spent in a transfer window, for me, I'm not as excited about this as, say, I was about the Alexis Sanchez window, in which I can't even remember who else we brought in. It was just the fact that we brought in Alexis Sanchez that was so good at the time. If I go to 2014, Callum Chambers, Danny Welbeck, Gabriel Paulista, Matteo Debuchy, David Ospina was that summer. We spent £107 million. It's the first time I think we spent over 100 million. And maybe that goes into one of the reasons as to why I was so excited about kind of that season of how much we spent during that window. But yeah, Alexis Sanchez's arrival, Mesut Ozil the year before was a big year. I tell you what though, 15-16 when Petr Cech just came in, that certainly was not an exciting one. 17-18 we brought in Aubameyang, we brought in Kolasinac and Mavropanos and Lacazette and Mkhitaryan. Of course, Mkhitaryan and Aubameyang were in January. But across that season, £137 million spent. This is the most we spent in a single summer by a long way. By a long way. So it is a very, very important season now for Arsenal to kind of go in and say, hey, look, we've spent this amount of money and we've got to show something for it. We are going to be joined by some guests, as I've said already throughout the show, looking very much forward to getting plenty of different thoughts and feelings from our listeners about the transfer window indeed. Let's go to Crucial Blog. It says 5 out of 10, right back situation, consequences of quite bad decision making on a number of players in that position. Jeffrey says 5. None of the players that we bought would start in the top 7 teams. It's an interesting thing because I've always kind of used that as a barometer for quality and said, would these players start for one of those top 7 teams? I think Ødegaard definitely would. I think Ben White, it was interesting. Manchester City, Liverpool, Chelsea were all tracking, Man United, all tracking Ben White, all very much interested in him, and Arsenal were the team that got him in the end. It's more like the potential of those players obviously going to be what you would say is maybe one day they could. But the thing is with Arsenal is that we need quality now. We need impact now. We need to improve the team now. And that's not necessarily happening at the moment. Thank you, Aaron. If you could hit the like button, I really would appreciate the support as always. Colin, good to have you in the chat box, my friend. Says amount of money spent doesn't qualify as good. It's what it is spent on. And this is something I'm going to be asking the guests because I agree in the sense that, how much we spend is irrelevant. It's how much of a difference it does make to the team. But I almost feel like we were starting 100 million behind everyone else because of how poorly we recruited. We needed a backup goalkeeper. We needed a backup left back. We had to add strong, youthful depth to the midfield. We've done those things. We needed to improve the centre-back area. We've done that. We needed to add a creative midfielder, and we've done that too. The issue is that we needed starters. We need an upgrade at right back, which hasn't happened. We may need an upgrade in the striking department, and we do need one, but we may need it even more next summer. I think we can get by with what we've got. And I mean, more so than we can get by. It's obviously a very lewd way of describing Aubameyang and Lacazette, but I just feel like we haven't added the necessary starters. Like central midfields was a big area that I wanted to see us improve on. I wanted to see us upgrade on Granit Xhaka. I wanted to see us get someone in better than Granit Xhaka. I understand the contract. I understand why we've extended it because no one was going to pay anything for him and it would have been stupid to accept 9 million quid for Xhaka. But for me, I still would have signed a central midfielder on top of Xhaka. I don't care if he's not happy being a utility, a rotation player. I don't care if he feels that way. I don't care. I want to bring in a starting central midfielder. He's signed the new deal. He's tied down. If he wants to leave later on, then we'll get a very decent transfer fee for him because he's one of those players I feel no matter if he goes into his 30s, he is going to still garner a sizable fee from a club that wants him. And he's tied to the club. We should still be going into the market and adding a top quality centre midfielder so that Sambi Lokonga, Partey and that signing become the crux and the foundation of that midfield with Xhaka is just kind of part of it. For me, that's how I would see it personally. Let's go to Kevin, who says Basuma would be watching him play just now. If he says signings potential 5, ready-made players is absolutely 0. I disagree with that, Iffy. Erdegaard is obviously a ready-made player, as is Ben White, with still much more improvement still to go. And for me, to describe them as not starters I think it's leaning more towards the ridiculous than taking into account the reality of the situation, which is they are both starters for us right now. Oh, Melly says 6 out of 10. I think we gave to buy into this kind of long-term plan because we can't pull ready-made players like the other top 5 teams. Still think we need a player at centre midfield and at right back. Article on Ramsdale was solid. Thank you, mate. Really appreciate that. Let's bring in today's first guest and get his thoughts on the transfer window. Olu, how you doing, mate? Are you well? Are you good?
Yes, I'm good. Thanks, Tom.
No problem. Where are you joining us from, Olu?
I'm from South East London.
Brilliant stuff, mate. Tell me your viewpoint on the transfer window. Has it been a good one for Arsenal, and how would you rate it out of 10?
I think it's been a good window so far. I would rate it 8 out of 10. And because I believe, yeah, because I believe there's been some good signings. I'll go through each one. With Ramsdale, I think we needed a good backup goalkeeper, and he has potential. I know he has some room to grow, but so far he has the potential to be our number 1 in the future. So for me, that's a good signing. Also, Ben White. Ben White is a quality ball-playing defender who has come in to replace David Luiz, which would help us to build up from the back. And for me, again, that's a top-class signing. For Lokonga, Tavares, it's a backup left back. However, just imagine if we had a backup left back last year, we could have have won perhaps the Europa League because Tierney got injured, and then we had to play Xhaka the left back. So again, I know it's a squad player, but that will really improve our left back situation. So Tavares also a good signing. It's still quite raw, but it could still improve, but it's a good signing. Then Lokonga, for me, should be a starter in the team. It's good enough. When Tielemans went to Leicester, he got in the team after a couple of months, and it was very good. And now it's a world-class player, I think. Again, Lokonga should be starting in the team alongside Partey. Again, quality signing. With regards to Odegaard, for me, I prefer Maddison. However, Odegaard is not too far away from Maddison. So it's just imagine our 3 behind our striker, Saka on the right, Emil Smith on the left, just like we had Brozinski, Perez, Kleb, a playmaker on the wing is also very effective. So Emil Smith on the wing, on the left wing, very creative as well. Great signing. Then, with regards to a striker, I know we need a striker. However, we need to get someone better than Aubameyang and Lacazette. I know about the poor season last year, but I still believe he has the quality. There was the issue with malaria. His mom was ill, and we just can't write him off based on one bad season. His goal record in the last 5 years is comparable to players like Cavani, Aguero. So we just can't write him off. He could still come back to the old Oba. Regards to the right back, we need the right back. However, Chambers is still okay. We can't improve all our areas in the same window. It's like, step by step. So that's why I'm giving it an 8 out of 10.
I'm going to question you on this now, Olu, because I know there are a lot of people in the chat box that are nowhere near an 8 out of 10. And so they're going to be wanting some answers from yourself. Look, you said that we signed these players, and I agree with a lot of the points you've made about them. How much closer do you think those signings have taken us to our goal of being a top 4 side?
I might sound crazy, but I think we are very close to the top 4. I'll tell you why. Every year, there will always be a team that has been earmarked to be in the top 4 that will slip up. That will always happen. It always happens. And that will happen this year. I don't know it's going to be, but one of them will slip up. And I think we have the quality. Partey has not played together with Odegaard in a lot of games, same as Lokonga, same as Saka, Emil Smith Rowe, Odegaard behind the striker, and Partey in the midfield playing week in, week out with 10 on the left as a left back if he's fit. That's a quality team. And we just need to wait and let them grow. We need to believe in the team. believe in the plan, believe in the manager. Again, I understand it's quite frustrating, but based on based on what I can see, that team can get into the top four. I know it sounds crazy, but I just believe they can do it because the quality is there.
I think that there is enough quality in this team to compete for the top four if, and it's a big if, everyone stays fit. And that is part of a transfer window. And say to you, like you said there, if Partey plays week in, week out, we've got a really good squad. Now, Partey is currently out. He was out for the Brentford game. We lost to Brentford 2-0. Part of that was losing the midfield battle and how easy it was Brentford to kind of transition through the team. We didn't have our first team strikers available to us, but I still think the creativity is a bit of a problem. Now, let me pitch to you that Partey gets another injury, which is not beyond the realms of a possibility, and he's out for a long time, which would leave Sambi Lokonga and Granit Xhaka as our two starting centre midfielders in what we believe to be Arteta's kind of 4-2-3-1 system. Is those two enough to push for a European place as the two centre midfielders this season?
I think so. And again, I know it sounds a bit too positive.
No, look, this is your opinion, mate. Don't say it's too positive or it's excuses. Tell me your reasons.
Yeah, the reason is this, right? Xhaka has his flaws and he has his issues. However, I believe football is played as a team. And I hope the manager can make it work. So you don't have to have 10 or 11 top class players in every position. When Klopp went to Liverpool, he had to make it work. Window by window, it was improving. He couldn't address all the areas in one window. It was improving window by window. Xhaka can be upgraded, but not this year. So we can make it work. Perhaps Lokonga with Xhaka could work. We've not seen them play together in a long period of time. I think it took Thierry Henry 14 games to score his first goal for the Gunners. Odegaard is at just 14 games for us now in the league, and it's been very good. But it can be better. So we're yet to see the best of Odegaard. We're yet to see the best of Partey, perhaps, with the Gunners. Best of Lokonga. So I just think that we need to be patient, support the guys, and we will see the best, but we just have to be patient. There's a plan. Before we just sign players that are available. So Aubameyang is available. We went for him, even though we had Lacazette. What's the point? We sign players that are available. Now there's a plan. We're signing players that we need, that would improve the team. And I like this. I know, again, it's difficult to understand, but I believe come December, we will see what I'm saying. There's a plan, and they're signing the players that will improve the team, not the players that are available.
I think you spoke fantastically well, Olu, in that, and you made a lot of points that I do agree with. Last question for you is, before you go, is that you've rated this window an 8 out of 10. What needs to happen in the last 10 days to become a 10 out of 10 for you?
For me, a right back. Chambers.
So that just a right back would take it from an 8 to a 10 for you. Is that the difference?
Yes, realistically, we can't sign. I would love another centre midfielder to take over from Xhaka. However, we have 4 centre midfielders already. We play 2, so we can only have 4 realistically. So I will go for an 8 for a right back, and that should do.
Okay, fair enough. Well, I think you spoke fantastically well and you made your points absolutely fantastically. Thank you so much for joining us, mate. Really appreciate it. Give yourself a shout out.
Thanks. Okay.
No problem, fella. I'm sure we'll see you again very, very soon.
Thank you.
Have a good one, mate. See you later. Massive thank you to Olu. Wasn't he great? Fantastic points made by Olu there. And I saw a lot of love from here for him in the chat box as well. Thank you so much for showing that support for him as well. We'll have another guest on very, very soon. If you would like to get involved with our phone-in shows, all you need to do is make sure you tune into the channel and listen to when I tell you that they're on. We told you this morning on the show. You can also follow us at the Gooner Talk TV. And I do let people know when we're doing these phone-in shows. They're usually once a week, sometimes Friday, sometimes Saturday. It depends when I'm working. But they're always a massive pleasure to get people on and find out their views, their thoughts, their feelings. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat box. Olu said they're 8 out of 10, and he made a lot of good points to support that. What do you say to trying to think, what maybe you don't agree with Olu? I want to know your thoughts and your feelings as to why maybe you don't agree with this. Let's go for Jeffrey says, I think we're closer to the top 6 than the top 4. Other than that, totally agree with what Olu was saying there. Evening, Sarvik. I also am pumped for tomorrow, and I'm looking forward to getting the vibes and soaking up the atmosphere outside the Emirates, which is where I'm going to be talking to plenty of fans as the proposed protest goes ahead tomorrow. Some bloke says 5 out of 10. A good window would include getting players out and improving that. It's a good point, and something maybe when we get one of our more positive guests on a little bit to ask them about. Do you not think that the lack of players being moved on has maybe brought that rating down ever so slightly? Jesse says, I agree with you, Tom. We should sign a central midfielder regardless of Xhaka, and we need a right back. Glenn Cook says, a new right back brings much needed balance to us overall, both defensively and offensively, and bringing in Awar at his value, nice, is just a steal. Both would make this window a 10 out of 10. Amazing stuff from our guests, as always. Social says, we need to address the elephant in the room. Ramsdale's goalkeeper gloves. Horrible. What, they're little like scales, like spikes on them. It's a weird part of me that maybe found them quite cool. Abdullah says 6.5 out of 10. It's a bit of an accumulation of signings, which is making it seem like an 8. We've signed and spent more than we ever have before, and maybe that is skewing how we do believe in certain aspects of this window. We'll wait and see what some of our guests think a little bit later on. Martinique says Guimaraes and a right back offload the deadwood, and it's a 10 out of 10 window. I struggle to ever rate anything out of 10 out of 10 because there's always room for improvement, of course. Tis Discuss says, love the positivity in general, but 8 out of 10 for current transfers is a bit deluded. Now, we don't like the word deluded here. I don't like anyone calling anyone deluded in the chat. If you've got an opinion, it's your opinion because you've come to that scale of thought through thinking, because you've watched stuff. And just to say that someone's opinion is deluded, I'm sorry, it's out of order and we don't accept it. Pablo says, we have improved the value of the tiers discussed. We've improved. I've read a message above at the same time. We have improved the value of the players in our squad, but not enough improvement on the starting 11. That is why it's a 6 out of 10. And for me, I'm around the 6 and the 7s kind of rate, and that's where I'm at. Because for me, when you look at kind of the system that we're trying to play, we need a lot more quality. We need a lot more players that are going to improve upon what Arteta's already trying to do. And, you can tell I'm multitasking at this moment. But we need more players that are going to improve upon centre-back, improve centre midfield is the crux for me. Now, we haven't improved the starting central midfield. Sambi Lokonga is great. I love him. I think he's a fantastic player. But he's not an improvement drastically on what we needed to do. And that, for me, was the real big area of the team that I thought, that's the catalyst for Arsenal this season. That's what's going to push us towards our targets. And it is for me anyway. It's a big shame that we haven't been able to do that. And that is, it's frustrating, but it's the situation we find ourselves in now. Let's scroll down a little bit more. Sam says a solid 7 out of 10 in the current market. Javier says solid 7 out of 10 for the transfer window as well. Vishal says, I'd say we've done pretty decently after Ramsdale and Ødegaard, but I'm still worried about the balance of our midfield. We're missing a sweeper in the midfield, and we definitely need a backup for Partey. Now, I feel like Lokonga can become that number 6 that we need. I would like to be able to think we could play a 4-3-3 with Lokonga as 6, Partey slightly ahead of him with another number 8 style midfielder, which could have been and could still be an Ødegaard, Smith Rowe playing alongside Partey and kind of that 4-3-3. I like that formation. You've got to put a lot of trust, though, in Lokonga to be simply that number 6. That's what I would say about that. Ade says, in my opinion, our problem is creativity and attack. I believe we need to go back the time of the technicians. You think about the technicians we've had in the team previously when we had players like Cazorla, Wilshere, Ramsey, Ozil, and Awar in the mix. I'm not sure I'd agree on Awar, but I think that having players of Santi Cazorla's quality would have obviously been fantastic. Sasha says, concerning Saliba, only joking, do you think that we're in a better position now to apply a plan B, a weakness under both Arsene Wenger and Mikel Arteta? No, Sasha, I don't think we're in a better position to deploy a plan B. Like, where is the striker that's going to come off the bench and bring us the goals? Where's the midfielder that's going to come off the bench and score us goals? We're in desperate need of them. We don't have it. We do not have a plan B option and that is a big concern, and maybe something that we've let go under the radar a little bit this summer. The fact that we've not been able to add in a plan B striker. I always thought that was a route that we could have gone down. Maybe that's what they're trying to mold Nikolai Moller to be in the future, but I do think that we are lacking something when it comes down to kind of, we're either 0-0 or desperately in need of a goal at the end of the game. And I don't look at the bench. I mean, against Brentford, who did we bring on? We brought on Nelson. We brought on, obviously, Saka, who should have been starting, and it was only Martinelli and Balogun that were out there originally. And who else did we bring on? Did we bring on Tavares, didn't we? We brought in Tavares. None of those players, Nelson, Tavares, Saka is obviously, he should be a starter. He's not a guy that's going to come off the bench, but he came on for Balogun. Like, Balogun is a young player, and you can't expect him to be the guy that's going to come off the bench and guarantee you a goal. We do lack that cutting edge off the bench, and that's a real problem. Let's go to some more comments. For those of you that are sending me DMs, we pre-schedule the guests in the hope that they turn up and come on. At the moment, the ones I try my best to schedule guests to come on at certain times. If they don't come on, there's nothing I can do. There's nothing I can do whatsoever. What I am going to do though is add one of our previous phone callers to come in quick to be a replacement for someone that's not shown up. Let's go to Cameron, who says 8 out of 10 going forward. This attack can work with the options for if we get in the right back, it would absolutely be needed. I do agree that we need the right back, Cameron, to step it up to that. I think it would be an 8 out of 10 if we got a right back in that was a genuine upgrade upon what we've already got. That's the difference for me, is that we need to bring in someone that's going to be a significant upgrade on what we already have in the team. Jeffrey Ebo says, we don't have a midfielder that can score us goals in the first team, so lock up the strikers and it's a done deal. We need diversity in our scoring and in our creativity. Diversity is something that is lacking massively throughout this team. Jeffrey says, we got Aaron Ramsdale. We should bring our boy Aaron Ramsey home from Italy. He never wanted to leave in the first place and offers us experience, something we are lacking. I'm not sure I'd return to Ramsey. I think that the situation we find ourselves in with the wages is just too high, and I can't justify that, to be honest. We're going to be joined quickly by two guests at the same time. We're going to be joined by Hamant and Elias. How you doing, guys? Are you well?
Yeah,
good, very good.
Very good. Thank
awesome
you.
Stuff. We've only got you two on for a very brief period because of a really kind of tight schedule. So I'm going to ask you one question each to let you go. Hamant, tell me your kind of score out of 10 for the transfer window and then try to justify it for me, mate. Off you go.
Okay, so I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. But again, this 8 out of 10 is with a lot of context. I think that our transfer window has been put under a lot of restrictions because of a lot of things. So, for example, we've had a lot of work to do, the kind of work which might even be impossible in one transfer window, the amount of players that we've had to sell, that we have to still sell, and the amount of players that we need to, the sheer number of players that we needed to get in, like in terms of the backups as well as the starters. So, plus we needed to also sort out the homegrown quota. And over and above that, we are always going to be compared to, at least subliminally going to be compared to the top 4 sides and their business. But can we really attract the kind of talent that they can attract without European competitions? It's going to be very difficult. Plus, I think right now, what I really like about us like their strategy is that they have a clear strategy in place. They want to build for the future. They have this youth project going on, when they would want the squad to peak in the next 3 to 4 years, and then we can challenge for the top 4 or even the title after 3 to 4 years. That's what I like about the transfer window, and that's why I think 8 is a fair rating. If they sell more, maybe I'd increase.
Ilias, are you in agreement with Hamant about 8 out of 10, or are you lower than that?
Yeah, I am 9 out of 10 for this one. You know why?
9 out of 10, wow.
Because we've got rid of Guendouzi. We've got rid of...
I feel like this is personal. This is personal towards Guendouzi now. Go on.
No, I'm joking. But like, I think for me personally, I would give it I'm very positive. I want to be positive. I don't want to be negative because I'm an Arsenal fan. I want to back my team. If the season goes bad, it is what it is. But I want to start positive. So for me, 9 out of 10, just because we're going young, we're going different. Not signing the likes of Willian, or we're not signing the likes of Cedric, or even Pablo Mari. Profiles like that. We're going young, and every player that we've signed, and I think that's something that we're not highlighting enough, is that every player is extremely talented at something. For example, Odegaard is extremely talented at passing and creating. Lokonga, you could see clearly he's extremely creative. Ben White, again, they're all forward thinking. There's no player that is not. Tavares, same thing, is very athletic and also very attacking minded. So that's what really is positive about it, and they're also very coachable. So that is a matching, like it's a dream come true. Not a dream come true, but it's a dreamlike scenario for Arteta.
Sure. Okay, fair enough. You've both raised very good points with your arguments. We are going to have to move on to our next guest, though. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in, as always. Really appreciate your time, guys.
Thank you, ciao.
Thank you, guys. Much appreciated. We'll bring in now our next guest, who I know is a little bit more indifferent about this window. It's Ben. How you doing, Ben? Are you well? Are you good?
Yeah, not too bad. Tom, how are you?
Yeah, very good, mate. Very, very good. So tell me, where's your head at? What kind of out of 10 would you give this window, and why?
I'm pretty positive. I mean, I'm going to the game tomorrow. I'm going there. I've been a bit negative recently. And I want to go support my local club. But we've actually spent some money this window, so I'm happy about that. Most Arsenal fans were always moaning we're not spending any money, and now it seems to be quite negative when we're spending loads of money. I find that a bit weird. But I think we've accepted our position. I think we've stopped chasing these short-term 28 to 30-year-old signings, trying to get us back into the top four, trying to make us quite relevant. And we've accepted our position, and we're now going to try and build the team the right way, hopefully. Not to use an NBA analogy, but we're building with young talent as opposed to throwing massive contracts at old players, essentially trying to win now. I think us chasing top four for all this time, we've just made all these stupid signings. So the likes of Willian, the likes of you go back to like Lucas Perez, you could like these short-term signings that just made no sense. I think all of these signings make sense. They may not all work out. I think a few of them, we might be saying in 2 years' time, Nuno Tavares, let's get him off the books. He's crap, but at least he's got resale value. All the players have resale value. Aaron Ramsdale may not make it, but he's got resale value. So I think all in all, it's a positive window.
What would you say to those that would say that we've spent loads of money, which is great, but we've spent it mainly on players that aren't necessarily starters? I'd argue that Ben White and Erdegaard are the two starters out of the 5 that we've signed, and those two come to around 80 million of that 130 odd that we've spent. So how much closer has this summer brought us to our target of getting back into Europe and eventually the top 4?
Yeah, I don't think we're hitting Europe this season, but I think they knew that anyway. I think if we'd gone out and tried to bid,
not 6th. You don't think we'll hit 6th?
I think 6th is the target. I think 5th and 6th is the target. I think 1 to 4 are so strong. They're so strong that Chelsea can put out 2 different 11s and could battle us with both teams, to be completely honest. And they could do that with most teams in the Prem, so could see. I think we've got to be a bit more realistic. And I think most Arsenal, there aren't many deluded Arsenal fans now. I think most people understand the position we're in. I literally think that Arteta has been quite shrewd. I think he's bought himself a bit of time as well. He's rather than going for established 26, 27-year-olds on 250 grand a week, he's bought smart and probably bought the club into a mind of thinking that we need to wait 2 or 3 or 4, maybe even 4 years until we can start competing for the title. But
so aren't people going to wait for that, are they? People are not going to sit here and accept 6th and 7th place finishes for the next 2 to 3 years and say that's good enough, because they won't.
Yeah.
So what would you say to them?
Say to them, I mean, it's tough. It's emotional, man. I want to. I'm a local North London boy. I want to go. I want to watch my team win. I was obviously around. I was a kid during the Invincibles and stuff, but you just got to live in reality, man. Like we've tried. To be fair, like they have tried every season. We've signed like Xhaka was like 45 million or something like that.
Yeah, it's close to 40. Yeah,
45 million. Bamiyang 55 million. Yeah. Pepe 72 million.
Mustafi 35 mil.
Look, Mustafi was highly rated. He was the World Cup winner. Like the thing is, we've spent loads of money if you actually think about it. Like, and we get worse every season. So clearly the strategies, like we've had what 3-4 managers as well, if you include Lundberg. So It's not.
I'd love to get your thoughts on Arteta now, because I based upon what you're saying, and you come across as someone who's very, very understanding of seemingly the situation that we're in. So how are you feeling about the coach? Because for me, I do put myself in your shoes a bit. I understand the route that we're taking, and I agree with all the points you're making there about the kind of the way we're targeting players. But when I can't see a system that's effective and I see consistent mistakes happening, that's what's led me to kind of change my position on the manager. So I'm curious to where's your head's at with that.
I mean, I'm undecided. I don't know where I stand with him. I think he's clearly a high potential coach. I think, you know, in my opinion, star players don't make great coaches. Great coaches, they're always like quite a bit of journeymen. They're quite like they're role players generally. And he fits that. He's obviously got great tutelage under Pep. He's still really young. He's not even 40. He's really young. Like, he's like way younger than most coaches, but he's made loads of mistakes as well. Like, he's made a lot of blunders. Even Brentford, like, why were we not playing like a counter-pressing broken style of play? Why are we trying to ask Balogun and Martinelli to make these really precise, intricate passes all over the pitch? Like, I think he,
and that doesn't tip you over, like that, seeing that, because that's things we've seen in the past. Does it not tip you?
I just think I'm not like Arteta.
I'm not sitting there trying to get you to go, look, I'm now Arteta. That's not what I'm saying.
No,
and I hate the labels. It's more about kind of saying, look, in my view, I think that the way we're going to progress is fine with the transfer business that we're doing, but I feel like it's not necessarily going to happen under Arteta right now.
Yeah, I think you might be right. And I think ultimately now he's got to prove that he can at least develop these players and make the players better.
Yeah.
But I also think this is why I think the window's like, I'd give it probably like a 7. I'd give it an 8 or a 9 if we'd got a lot more players out. And to be fair, it's just the COVID market stopping that and the fact they're on such high wages. But if he was to get fired, the next manager has a really good base to work with, even if they just get resale value out of a lot of these players and then they want to buy new players in. Essentially, the squad that he inherited versus the squad that he left with is in a much better place now, in my opinion, even if we don't sign a right back. Like, I think we should try, but even if we don't sign a right back and say Arteta gets fired in December, the new coach that comes in has inherited a much better and a much easier squad to manage than what he inherited. You got to think all the wages, all the lack of talent, all the ego, all the old style fullbacks that just don't suit the modern game, like Kolasinac and Bellerin. Like, I know Bellerin's still here, but like,
feels like a long time.
You know what I mean? I think he ultimately, we look back in this in 10 years, even if he does get fired, we'll think of him as, you know, maybe a bit inexperienced, but he did do some positive things with the squad at least.
I can't sit here and say it's been all bad. It's like we won an FA Cup. Yeah. Players have improved. Emile Smith-Rowe's improved. Saka's improved. I think that he's brought through people. I think what's the right word? It's not fair to say that he doesn't work well with young players, because I don't agree with that. I think we've proved that we've pushed young players.
He's clearly a high potential coach. Like, he's clearly going to be a coach for a long time.
It's the wrong step at the wrong time.
Maybe we just hired him too early. Maybe he needs to do is like get some experience in the Championship or at a lower Premier League club or in the league or somewhere. And then when he's like in his 50s, that's when he starts entering his prime as a manager. Do you know what I mean? I just think
absolutely.
He's learning on the job, and this is arguably one of the toughest jobs in football. Like, I think Rafa would have his work cut out here. I think even Pep and Klopp would. Yeah, they'd obviously get better players because their name recognition, but they'd still find it tough. I don't think Pep's winning the Premier League with this squad. So
yeah, I can't disagree with you there. I mean, Pep's not getting anywhere close to the top 4 with what we currently got.
No,
I don't think.
Definitely not.
I think he would get us. Well, I say anywhere. I think he would get us closer than Arteta, but I still think he would certainly struggle. It wouldn't be a cakewalk like many might try and make out. But still, for me, that's enough for me to say, look, if another coach I feel can get more from this group and can get us playing better and utilising the quality that we've got better, then I think it is probably worth changing, because we can't afford to not push ahead, if you know what I mean.
So that's my litmus test for Arteta this season. Am I seeing Saka, Smith Rowe, Martinelli, basically our core, Tierney? Are we seeing them develop? And if they don't look like that, if we're still 8th, 9th place and they're not improving, then I think that's time for him to go. If we see Saka emerge or Smith Rowe emerge as like a breakout star in the Premier League, like a proper star, like 10 goals by Christmas and like 8 assists, then even regardless of the position, I think you have to give him more time because he's doing his job. He's improving he's improving the squad. That's my thinking. I don't think it's as easy as Arteta in or Arteta out. I think
I don't either.
I'm bigger than him, and I think he's. You've got to commend him for not trying an ego buy with loads of expensive players. He's actually gone, do you know what? Let's spend all this money investing in the squad. Lokonga is a massive upgrade on El Neni. Tavares is a massive upgrade on Kolasinac. Ben White's an upgrade on Holding.
Yeah.
They're all upgrade. Ramsdale's a massive upgrade on Runnison and arguably an upgrade on Leno as well. So I don't see how, we're getting memes to hell at the moment. I don't see how people are saying we're not improving. Like the squad is objectively better and it's younger and cheaper to look after. So I'm positive, man.
You make some really good points.
I'm going to try and get my positivity down tomorrow. Hopefully it's not too quiet.
I don't think it will be, mate. I don't think it will be. Anyway, Ben, thank you so much for coming on and taking the time. You raised some fantastic points. Give yourself a shout out and where people can find you.
If
you want to.
on Instagram, yeah. Check me out.
There you go. Thank you so much for coming on, mate. Really appreciate it.
Cheers, guys.
No worries. Thank you to Ben. Let's bring on Cash. Cash, how you doing, mate? Are you well? Are you good?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm surviving. How are you?
Surviving is a good word. That's certainly how I'm feeling about a lot of the time at the moment. Tell me your thoughts. We just had Ben on who was obviously quite very positive and objective about where we are as a club and a team in the transfer window. How would you rate this window out of 10 and why?
I'd probably rate it, if I'm being honest,
please be
about 6 out of 10.
Yeah.
I think if we look at it in terms of quality and players who we've brought in, I could give it maybe a 7 or 7.5 out of 10. But then if I look at it in terms of what we've spent for who we've spent it on, that brings down the average quite a bit. Ben was mentioning just now when I was listening. Oh, sorry, sir. Ben was saying just now that, a lot of fans have complained about, us not spending money in years, and then we spent money and now no one's happy. But it's all good and well spending close to £140 million. But if that doesn't change the starting 11, doesn't change performances, doesn't change morale, then you're spending money for no reason. And I'm not saying that. Do you think it was
spent for no reason? Because whilst I'm critical of what we've done, I think that everything we've spent, we had to spend. Like, we had to do that.
Of course. No, I agree in that sense as well. So I'm not saying that it's all doom and gloom and it's the worst transfer window we've had. But I would have liked to see a bit more urgency in sort of sorting out what we've got on in the moment with the starting 11, We've seen clear problems for ages, and then in terms of our goalkeeping department, and then Leno came in, and I really like Leno. I rate Leno highly. I think he's a very good shot stopper, but playing out from the back he cannot do. And if you implement that style consistently, and you want the players to learn and develop that way, then you need to bring someone else who fits that. Pep Guardiola was so cutthroat with Joe Hart. Joe Hart was Man City #1 for so long, England #1. Couldn't do the basics that Pep wanted, and he was gone, out the door. He didn't care. Edison came in, and look what happened. And I'm not saying that's going to happen with us, but basing it on this transfer window, those are some positions, like, for example, Sambi Lokonga. Great player. I really, really like him, and I think that's a good signing. Yeah. Tavares is the same thing. I'm happy with spending £7 to £8 million on a backup for Tierney. Quality young player. Ben White was the big one. Obviously, Ben White caused a lot of controversy with the price. But again, I think he's a quality player. And I think in time, it will prove to be a good signing. The problem is that the fans now do not want to give Arteta and Edu the time. And
do you think that's the thing? Do you think if, say, there was a different, say Antonio Conte, right, came in during this window and we'd made the exact same signings that we've made, do you think there would be as much criticism about the window?
See, that's a good question. And I don't think there would be as much because it's Antonio Conte. But that's the problem, though. When you come in with a proven track record of winning things wherever you've gone, then I guess no one can actually question your judgment. Will have the right to question your judgment. For example, he went to Inter Milan and they were in and about the top. Went there, won the league, and decided, you guys aren't giving me the money I want. You've seen what kind of trouble they're in, and he left. And then I had some of my friends telling me, why don't we go and get Conte? And this sort of trickles down to our transfer window. And tell me if you think I'm wrong, but I think we as Arsenal now need to sort of manage our own expectations as fans and as the club, that we are not the same club we used to be under Arsene Wenger 10, 15, 20 years ago. And the decline is real, and we have to manage that expectation. You can't go and expect to sign a Rafael Varane for 40 million. He wouldn't come here. And that's me being brutally honest. We are an amazing club. We're one of the best clubs, biggest clubs in the world. But these kind of players who go to clubs like Manchester United, who are at Real Madrid, want to see a project. And I had a lot of my friends say to me, look at a lot of my Man United fans, look at where you are now. You signed Ben White for 50 million and we've got Varane for 40. I told them it's a project. You have to wait. It wasn't done in a day. Rome wasn't built in a day, and it takes time. I'm very happy with the signings in terms of. So
why is it a 6? Because I'm really confused. Like, I know I get what you're saying. That in terms of, like, if you were, say, put the signings we made to Manchester United, you would say, yeah, like 6, maybe even lower. But for Arsenal, you said that a really good point, which is about the fact that these players have been signed because we're gradually building up to being competitive to get back into that top 4.
Yeah.
So then, is the window not better than a 6 out of 10 because it's what we've needed to do at this moment in time?
In certain aspects, it can be, yeah.
Yeah,
but then we have to realize that the fall we've had has been so rapid that I guess even myself, I find it hard to comprehend and accept. So I don't want to settle for second best. I don't want to settle for, the likes of a Sambi Lokonga when there's, we've been linked with other players. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with him. Yeah. So that's why I say it's a 6. I think it's a good window, but I think it could have been better if we invested. But again, it depends on the project, and it depends on what we want. Do we want something to come in now and get us that fix straight away, potentially go wrong, or suffer a little bit and then see where it goes? One thing I wanted to mention about Aaron Ramsdale was, again, I would have loved Onana. I would have loved to have him in the club. But again, it's the recency bias. It's seeing someone like that playing in the Champions League, playing at Ajax. If I'm honest, I haven't seen him play week in, week out. Like I have seen Ramsdale play in the Premier League.
But your opinion of him is that he's great because you've seen him in the Champions League, and
and I think that's very unfair, and we shouldn't do that. I've seen Ramsdale being absolutely slaughtered online. Yeah. Is he going to turn down arguably the biggest contract of his career at the biggest club, a team that apparently he loves? And I think we take stats too seriously sometimes. I know stats don't lie, but
saying that to the wrong guy.
But let me give you an example of what I mean.
Yeah, go for it, man.
And when I say stats cloud judgment sometimes, is everyone kept mentioning that Ramsdale's been relegated twice now.
Silly stat, but yeah.
And if you put it in that, if you put it like that, then he must be the worst keeper in the world. But then if you look at it deeply and you look at that, last year, Sheffield United only scored 20 goals. Only 20 goals. That was the least in the whole league. But they didn't concede the most. They actually conceded less than Southampton, which finished 15th, less than Palace, who were 14th, and they only conceded one more than Newcastle, who were 12th.
They just couldn't score. Like,
they couldn't score exactly. So then, does the blame go on to Ramsdale for them being relegated? Shouldn't it be McGoldrick got them relegated?
Right.
If someone went and signed McGoldrick now for 20 million, not saying that it happened, everyone would be like, oh, would they say, oh, he's the worst striker in the league? You've overpaid for someone like that. It's unfair. And again, I think it's a lot to do with that the English players' prices go up. But us as fans, we shouldn't be putting that pressure on them. You're setting them up to fail straight away. They come in, they make one mistake, and that's it.
I get what you're saying, and I think that for the article I wrote about Ramsdale with the tactical pieces, all of those tactical images talking about his distribution, Sheffield United were losing in every single one of the images, and like that's someone replied earlier on saying, "Look, you've done this breakdown on a player, and in every photo they're losing. Surely that's like why are we not putting the finger at Ramsdale?" And you're thinking the goalkeeper's not the only guy on the pitch, like, and there's shots that go in, and we talk about his expected conceded goals. He conceded. I think it was pretty much bang on what he was expected to concede last season, and he's 23, and he's going to improve. He's going to get better, and you'd hopefully that mean that will improve in that respect too.
And that's crazy when you think about it. At the age of 21, 22, he was number one choice at Bournemouth. That's not normal for a goalkeeper. That shows your ability, whether people want to accept it or not, because they've been clouded by the Onana or the whoever, what other keepers we've been linked with in the past. And that's what happens, and that's what rumors do. They cloud your judgment, and then that's why I said we need to manage expectations. We're not at that level anymore. We can get there, but then people need to sort of calm it down. We've still got 9 first-team members who are part of Arsene Wenger's last squad. 9, and all 9 of them feature regularly, except for Ainsley. But we've got El Neni, Laka, Oba, Holding, Chambers. These Kolasinac is still there. Bellerin. Xhaka, for example, that's 9 players, and I'm not saying that get rid of them and the team will be perfect, because a lot of fans think, oh, let them get rid of the dead wood and we'll be back to Arsenal, the good old Arsenal. It's not how it works. Again, I have questions about Arteta and his tactics. I was singing his praises for so long at the beginning, and I really liked him. I thought, I believed the hype. Pep said he's amazing. Pochettino said he's amazing, and I was like, oh, maybe this guy has got what it takes to take us there. But I think again, we've done the same thing we do over and over again: is paper over cracks. And until we tear down the wall and actually start to rebuild, which is what we're doing now, we won't get anywhere.
No, I can't disagree again with what you said. This is the thing, is that I have this I put my mindset where I'm at, and I go into every show, especially these phone-in shows, and think, this is where I'm at with my opinion. And you people like yourself, Cash, come along, make these good points. And I'm sitting there reflecting on it and going, look, I can't disagree with the point you're making in that we've needed to tear the walls down of this club and rebuild. And the best way to do that is, of course, by bringing in younger players that are going to get better and develop and improve. I still feel like we lack a little bit of balance. And that's why I'm very much kind of a backer of the idea of bringing in Kieran Trippier at right back. That I think that would provide us balance and experience. I think people associate kind of Trippier and bringing in a 30-plus player with the bringing in of Willian. And I don't see it as that. Like, I saw Willian as a depth signing, which, when I reflect on it, when I thought at the time, was, it made a little bit of sense. But actually, if you're going to bring in a 30-plus player, you don't want them being someone that's going to be on high wages and that's just part of the squad. You need a 30-plus player that you're bringing in to be a starter, and that they are improving upon what you've already got. And that's what I feel like Trippier does. So, but yeah. Cash, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show, mate. Absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much.
And I'm sure you'll be back on at some point. I really do. So thank you so much, mate. Appreciate it.
No worries, Tom. It was good speaking to you, yeah?
Likewise. Have a good one, mate. Have a good one.
Take care.
Indeed. Thank you to Cash for his thoughts. Fantastic points yet again, mate. Let's dip into the chat box and get some of your thoughts and feelings about a couple of super chats. Sam Trester says, would be interested to hear people's thoughts on the Cronkies. Has anyone's opinion changed? Are protests doing more harm? I don't think the protests are doing more harm than good, Sam, to be honest. If people have got a right to view their opinion and voice their opinion at the end of the day, and we know that they don't listen. And we know that a bid from a rival billionaire does not affect how the Cronkies are running the club whatsoever. So I don't think they're necessarily harming anything in any way. I think it's more people's kind of egos around the perception of the club that gets hurt more than anything within it. Has opinion changed on the Cronkies? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It doesn't change in one summer. Arsenal have spent historically. We spent, as we talk about the finances showed, £591 million was spent by the club between 2015 and 2019. And yet we regressed because the people making the decisions on who we bought that were employed by the Cronkies made the wrong choices. And so it's not just about spending. It's about decisions. It's about who makes those decisions. It's who's delegating those choices to those people, and that is the ownership. And so, no, it is not about, and that's why I got very frustrated, because I saw some tweets about people saying that, look, the protest, how can you go and protest how can you protest the owners after we've spent more in a summer than we ever have before? Because it's not about that. And if you don't keep the pressure on, and if you don't keep the expectation of those owners high, they will feel the same way they've felt. And ultimately, there's still part of me, a very regretful part of me, that feels it doesn't matter what we do, they will still feel that way. But hopefully the Super League protests and how everyone reacted to that showed that there can be differences made and it can make an impact. That's why I'm never going to turn around to anyone ever again and say you shouldn't protest, because the running of this club is still not being done correctly. I mean, Arteta was the wrong choice, and that's why I'm not involved in appointing managers, because I make too many wrong decisions. And these people need to make more right ones. And appointing Arteta at the time that they did, an inexperienced coach when we were in a real big hole, looks like a real mistake. And we need to do that we need to improve on that. We need to improve on the decisions in the market. And one summer of positivity, I do look at this summer as a positive, but one summer of positivity doesn't change things. You need a legacy of positives, a legacy of improvement, and we don't yet have that. Innie, thank you ever so much for the donation as well, mate. It says, hey, Tom, it's been an okay window. There's a pattern we filled needed in each role. We have decent enough depth. Please, no more, if I'm being honest. I can't help it. It's what I say. It's ingrained in my psyche of what I say. So there you go. I was hoping to get another couple of guests on. One of them does not seem to be coming online, which is a shame. But hopefully we can get you another guest very, very soon. Let's go. Join if you are ready. Let's get another guest on soon. Let's go to Javier, who says, Tom, was Martin Odegaard Arteta's first player he wanted at Arsenal for that number 10 position, or was it Emi Buendia? I think it was very much Martin Odegaard. It's obviously a change in dynamic throughout the summer. When he left, it was very much expected that he would go to Real Madrid and play. Like, they wanted to keep him. But then this situation where La Liga shifted, and when we thought that he was going to stay, the Emi Buendia situation was going on. So it's unsurprising that we went in for Buendia, if we did, at a very last-minute moment, because we were worried that Odegaard might happen, and Buendia, I believe, was probably our second choice behind Odegaard, who we thought at the time wasn't going to happen. So we put a late bid in, and it wasn't enough to convince him. That's kind of the problem that we find ourselves. Let's bring in our next guest onto the show. It's Rohit. How you doing, mate? Are you well? Are you good?
I'm good, Tom.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Tell me how you're feeling about the window. Out of 10, what do you rate it? And tell me your reasons as to why.
Out of 10, I would give it a 5. And the reason being, we haven't signed enough of experienced players, which was the need of the hour. And just before I give my viewpoints, I heard a lot of the other fans saying, we are digressing, we can't attract the kind of players. But if you look at a comparison between us and Manchester United, for example, since the time Sir Alex Ferguson left, I think we're pretty much in the same boat. And until last season, I think we finished above them more times than they have finished above us.
Yes.
So it's not the question of whether we can attract players or not. Despite Manchester United's failings, they were able to attract the likes of Bruno Fernandes, the Cavani's of this world, and now Varane and Sancho. So
why do you think that is, Rohit? Why is it? I get and I think you've raised a fantastic point that we have. You're right. We finished above Man United for a number of seasons, and yet they were able to still, attract a Bruno Fernandes. Why? Why were they able to do that, and why weren't we?
Well, I think it's got to do with the projection of what the club is perceived to be, and the direction in which the owners or the hierarchy want to take the club forward. Now, for example, if Arsenal wanted to get a Bruno Fernandes, we would have struggled because there's nobody. He would have looked at the team and said, okay, in Manchester United, I have a Pogba, I have a Luke Shaw, players that we can build together with. But at Arsenal, we don't have any of those players. And this transfer window, we've not moved in that direction at all. I mean, we've signed good players like Lokonga and your Odegaard, but where are we heading? I mean, we keep talking about this project for God knows how long now, and it's going to take another 3 to 4 years at least with the way our transfer projections are going and the kind of players that we are attracting. So for me personally, I give it a 5 for the simple reason is we've not started the transfer window identifying our targets, identifying the people that we want, the areas that need filling. We've just gone out, made inquiries, and that's it, And another point that I want to raise is we spent 50 million on Ben White because Brighton weren't budging an inch to go below 50 million pounds.
Yeah.
But then the same thing at the beginning of the window, when we were linked with Buendia, I think we lost him for 3 to 4 million less than what Aston Villa bid. So where is the direction there? And that was a more priority position for us to fill than a Ben White. So at the beginning of the window, if the board were really that interested in making us progress further, they'd have said, okay, we need 4 positions that need filling. One is the right back, the center midfield, the attacking midfield, and a goalkeeper. Those 4 would have been our priorities. But what did we do instead? We went for a defender, which was not really required at the point of time.
Sure.
I would have been happy if we'd have done that towards the end of the window. But that was not the priority. And my fear with the current regime is we are hiring all yes men. People that would nod along, that would not raise their voice against anything the manager says or does.
Yeah, I agree.
And so that is a big concern, and we don't have leaders. Just look at our captaincy, for instance. We're just, throwing the armband around like it doesn't matter. The senior most person gets the armband, and that's not the way a captain should function. So for me, the problem with that is that, okay, we're signing a lot of players that Arteta wants, which is fine. But what happens in 1 year if he leaves? If he gets a sack and a new manager comes in, he would look at the players that probably that were signed and say, look, these players are not good enough if we want to get back to where we want to be. And then again, we got to do the entire juggle again. We got to replace players. We got to bring in players. So it's a never-ending saga.
Let me ask you a question. I want to jump in now because I think it's important.
Okay.
The point you raised about kind of where there's a few things that you brought up and you raised them well is the start of the window when we obviously went for Emi Buendia. We wanted to attack him midfielder. We didn't get him. We ended up going for Ben White very soon after. What would you have done different in that? Because obviously it's easy to sit and say, look, I wouldn't have done that, but I wouldn't have gone for Ben White. I would have spent my money. So who would you have signed and how would you have done it?
Okay, so my concern with the Ben White thing is not because we bought Ben White. I think he's going to be a good player.
Yeah.
But we haven't addressed the priority areas. I mean, we're haggling over a 3 to
So
4
who?
million.
I want to know who, Rahit. You tell me who you would have got for those priority areas. Who would you have signed for Arsenal to take us towards the top four?
Well, I would have ideally liked to sign the targets that we went in with. So if we wanted a Buendia, we should have got him. It's as simple as that. We're not a Leicester or a West Ham, where we're penny pinching for a couple of million here and there. So if we really wanted Buendia, we should have gone and got him. So I don't think they planned that really well. And also on coming onto the point of Ben White, if we wanted a Brighton defender, why not go in for a Lewis Dunk over a Ben White? He has experience, he's proven, he's a leader. That's the need of the hour, ideally speaking.
Does Lewis Dunk get into any of the top 6 teams above us, do you think?
Well, we're not in the top 6, are we?
No, but that's where we want to be, though. It's where we want to be. We want to be in the top 6. So I think that Ben White can be a player that gets into the top 6 in, say, 2 or 3 years. I don't think that Dunk is now or would ever be a top 6 player. Does that make sense?
But I think Dunk would walk into our defense over Ben White with the current defenders that we have.
Would it? It wouldn't close the gap between us and those. Whereas I think Ben White, while he doesn't close the gap now, in 2 or 3 years, would be a player that got into those top 6 teams. In the same way that you say Buendia, I don't look at Buendia as that much better, if at all, than Martin Odegaard, for instance.
Yeah, that's
yeah. Go on.
Yeah, I agree with that point. But my whole contention with that is we were so inclined to sign a Buendia. There was a lot of noise even before the transfer window opened that Buendia was coming to Arsenal and stuff like that. But then we lost him for it's the manner in which we are losing our targets that is concerning. That's the problem I have with. I don't have a problem with wanting a Buendia or not, but since we've gone in for him and we've made our intentions really clear and we failed in signing him, then there's something definitely wrong. I don't have a concern if we wanted Odegaard from the start. We were very clear that whatever happens with the Odegaard situation, even if we have to wait to the 11th hour to sign Odegaard, we are going only for Odegaard. But that was not the case. The Odegaard thing surfaced, only once we lost Buendia. There was no talk of signing Odegaard on a permanent deal at the beginning of the transfer window.
I do disagree, because I think that if you think back to May, and I only know this because I've written about it a million times, Mikel Arteta said that he basically in managerial linguistics and just kind of basically symbolized that he wanted to sign Martin Odegaard. He said that we know what we want to do. He knows what we would like to do. So I think that Arteta did say that. And I do want to bring this back around to the point, because Rohit, I think that you're bringing across a point of view that is what I've been looking for. I've been looking for someone to try and argue the point that the window's not good. So I'm glad that you're here.
Yes.
But what I'm still longing to find is for someone to tell me is if we shouldn't have gone for Odegaard, we shouldn't have gone for Ben White or whatever, which I'm not saying is what you've said. I want to hear the plan. I want to hear what would have been done differently and who those players are. You say Buendia, but I don't think Buendia is, if at all, that much better than Odegaard. I don't think that Lewis Dunk would have been a right choice over Ben White. So just for one last time, what players would you have signed differently that would have closed the gap this season to those above us?
Like I said, the priority was a left back, a center midfield, a center attacking midfield, and a goalkeeper. And what we've signed is a defender and basically backups to the crap that we already have. So we basically spent over 100 million on a B team and on the bench. So can you imagine if we had to improve our A team or our 11 players that we put out on the pitch to at least finish in the top 6, it would take us 500 million easy.
It probably would. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So my whole bone of contention is, okay, we can't spend 500 million in one window. So why not bring in 3 high quality players, spend 150 million.
Who, Rohit? I want to know who. Tell me who they are.
Okay, I would have bought Bissouma.
Yep, that's
because
fine.
we lack Bissouma. We lack a player like Bissouma. We clearly, every game we're shouting out for a Bissouma. Even the Brentford game, I don't think, our midfield would have been bypassed with the ease in which it was with the Bissouma out there.
I 100% agree with you.
Yep.
Bissouma,
And for a right back, I'm not saying we'd have got him, but at least we should have made a push for the Inter Milan right back who's joined the PSG, Hakimi.
You know what I'm going to ask? You know what I'm going to ask you now, though.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you, why would he have joined us, an 8th place team with no Europe, over PSG? Why would he have done that?
I agree with that point, but the issue is the intention. We have to show intention. If we don't land the player, that's fine. We're already looking at second to third targets, right? So if for example, say we wanted a Trippier, all of a sudden we've been linked to Trippier because Manchester United have sort of pulled out of the race, and suddenly he's available and Arsenal are going. That's where the problem lies. We don't identify targets and make our intentions clear. Even the Lautaro Martinez thing, which is a weird one, right? We just made an inquiry. Now, what is an inquiry?
Well, everyone inquires, don't they? That you inquire.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Imagine I use the analogy of like you're on a car website. You want to buy a car, and the only way that you can buy a car is buy it off someone. And you go onto the website to buy a car, and all of the cars that you want to buy are on this website, but there are no prices there. You don't know if the car. This is a silly analogy now. You don't know if the car would want to be bought by you. Like, so you inquire, don't you? You inquire to know how much they would cost. Inquire to know if the player would be interested. So that's why we inquired about Martinez. But when it turned out that he doesn't want to go, because Spurs apparently, according to the Times, agreed a fee with Inter Milan for Lautaro Martinez, but he doesn't want to go. He wants to stay. So why would he have joined Arsenal, a side completely out of Europe, rather than the Italian champions stay there and play in the Champions League? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree at that point. But the only reason that he didn't want to go and Inter Milan didn't want to let him go was because they sold Lukaku. They would have been open to selling him if Chelsea hadn't gone in all of a sudden for Lukaku, right? He was available. He would have been available before Chelsea signed Lukaku. That the noises were that they had to get rid of a lot of players, and Lautaro Martinez was in that list. So that's the reason the inquiry was made. If Arsenal knew that they were not going to sell him, they wouldn't have inquired. But I mean, coming back to the point of the goalkeeper, now Ramsdale, he's a good keeper. I rate him really highly. I've seen him, I think he was Sheffield United's best player the 2 seasons that they were in the league. You can argue that Lundstram in the first season when they were up top would share, but Ramsdale was absolutely brilliant for the 2 seasons. But I think we've overpaid. Why are we spending 25 million on a backup goalkeeper? If you would have sold Leno, it would have made a lot of sense. Bringing in Ramsdale, but Leno is still here, so I don't understand whether there has been a falling out between Arteta and Leno, and he's going to just be sidelined and Ramsdale would come in. But so I mean, for example, Donnarumma was a free agent before the Euros. Everyone knew that. He was being banded around, but no club was interested. Why didn't Arsenal make a move? Arsenal didn't make a move for Donnarumma.
I hear what you're saying. I think for me, the Ramsdale situation, look, we got in a backup keeper that's got potential to be a starter, which arguably is better than getting in just a backup keeper. Why not get someone that can, push the first goalkeeper? I think that Arsenal, if I got Bissouma from you and I agree about Bissouma, I would have done that. And centre midfield is the one position that I sit here and I go, look, that is the position we really could have improved on this summer, and we didn't. That's genuinely the one failing. If we don't get a right back this summer, That's the other position I'm going to turn around and be like, look, the club should have got a right back and they should have got an upgrade in centre mid. But everywhere else, and I count striker because we've got two competent strikers that are desperately lacking in chances. I just think that those two positions, Rahit, we are really against time, and I really want to get James on now. So I am going to thank you for your time. You've made some great points, and I appreciate you coming on to the situation where we've had a lot of people talking in the opposite end of the spectrum. So I have absolute respect for you. Very quickly, Rahit, very quickly.
Yeah, before we leave, I don't think with the signings that we made, we're going to improve over 8th. So I think we're going to finish 8th to 10th. That's just my view.
Okay, and that's fine, and that's your opinion, and I'll respect it, Rahit. Thank you ever so much for
coming.
Thank
you very much.
James, good to have you on the show, my friend. How are you doing? Just take yourself off mute. You've done my classic 2021 thing that I do all the time.
Oh, mate, no. I'd have thought all of these online and COVID,
you think we'd be used to it by now, wouldn't you?
I should be used to it by now, but. Thank you so much, Tom, for having me on and for providing this platform for us fans to interact with you.
No problem at all.
Great, man.
Now, you've obviously been sitting there listening to Rahit, and I know that you are the other end of the spectrum. Do you think this has been a good window? Tell me, out of 10, how would you rate it, and why?
A really solid 8, and I thought you summed it up pretty much at the end of your previous analysis. Truly, if we had reinforced in our centre mid position, maybe an upgrade on Granit Xhaka and a strong upgrade on Bellerin, who could argue that wouldn't have been a 10 out of 10 window?
Yeah.
Martin Odegaard for maybe a little over £30 million. When you look at that, Aston Villa paying the same sort of money for Buendia. I mean, for me, Odegaard is clearly a different class to Buendia, and I think we've done great business there. I think bringing in Ben White, Ben White has the potential to be the next, Harry Maguire for England. Sure. So he really has the potential to not only be maybe a cap. I mean, this is why I really do believe there are two processes that are actually ongoing with Arsenal. You have the process on the pitch, which is led by Arteta, which is how we're involving on match days basically, and the other process is how we're rebuilding our squad post Wenger, because Wenger and him leaving did mark the end of an era, we have to admit. So I have to give a lot of credit, I believe, to Edu and his team. Because I do believe that since he's come in, he has season after season in his process done a really good job. We've seen a lot of our dead wood being paid off sometimes. And the players who have come in for them have been a lot stronger. I mean, we can look at Kolasinac, okay, he hasn't leave, but he will leave. And this young Tavares. Touch wood. Yeah. There's 11 days left, 10 days left, so there's still a chance he'll leave. But I do believe that Tavares is looking like a decent solution, as a backup for Tierney, who has captain potential and is looking like a really great player to have in our team, starting 11 for maybe the next 8 years. Who knows? So that's really strong business. Ramsdale, it was disgusting, the amount of abuse he received online, which is just typical of sometimes of football fans, but we know what it's like, football, and football players know what it's like as well. It's a swing, it goes around and goes back and everything, and like you mentioned this morning on your podcast, thank goodness there was a positive backlash for him, because I believe that Ramsdale, he'll be a great player for us as well. When he was coming out, he's, I do believe that in 3 years, he'll be our number one. And he'll be, challenging for the number one, England shirt as well, come the Qatar World Cup and everything as well. So, I think great business done there. The striker situation, would a Martinez have made us stronger? Possibly, yes, but we had other priorities this season. I mean, this is why it comes down to process.
That word.
I know. and you hate this word as well, but it's a cliche word, process. It's a cliche word, but midfield as well. Could we have done an upgrade on Granit Xhaka? Probably. Was it a priority? Maybe not.
I think it was for me, James. I think it was. Like
I know you've said since the beginning, Basuma.
No. And that's the thing is, at the start of this window, I sat here, and I know that you were listening, and I said, look, this is the chance this summer to really find Partey's partner, to find the guy that's going to upgrade on this midfield. And that's why, whilst I respect that you're in at an 8, and I understand from the reasons you're giving me why you're there, I just can't get to that level of kind of the how good that it perceives to be at an 8, because the centre midfield was an opportunity for us that we didn't take. The right back is an area that we are still yet to sort out, and we have still yet to move on a lot of players. Do you not see why? Feel free to come back at me, because
I will come back at you. Especially regarding that right back area, because as you've mentioned on previous podcasts, we've got 4 players easy who can play that.
Not
this
very
is
good
why
though,
the cliche word process. It will come back and hit you again. We can't get rid of. It's not FIFA. We can't get rid of Bellerin and Maitland-Niles and all of these players. Boom, boom, boom. As much as the club would probably love to. Even Bellerin, it seems like he wants to go himself. So I do believe that it is a process. We can't expect to get everything done. I mean, there's still a chance, and like we were saying at the beginning of our discussion, there's still a chance that we could see a swap between Bellerin and Trippier. And then, for me, that would push the 8 towards the 9, because that would be, making our starting 11 stronger. I hate the word process. I'll bring it up again. We need to shift, this transfer window. It wasn't just about making our starting 11 stronger. It's about making our whole squad stronger for the future. These young players like Tavares, White, Ramsdale, Odegaard, they'll be a lot stronger in 4 years. In 4 years, Arsenal will be a lot better to have them within our squad. That's why I truly believe that the process undergone by Edu and his team is really an efficient process. I'm a lot less convinced how Arteta is, using the tools provided by, the Edu team. I do believe that, the craftsman, if you give him excellent tools, but, he's not using them well, it's bound to fail. And
So, do you think that for Arteta, because this is a really good chat, and I like when it comes down to the positive end of the spectrum and the Arteta side of things, for me, it's always important to ask, because you bring up that the tools are not the issue. But for me, I do feel like a different coach would get more from this current group.
Absolutely. I mean, imagine if we had the ambition to bring in Conte, for example.
Right.
I mean, that's why I do believe that we also have to put Edu's job into perspective, because he is working within a certain structure as well. I mean, if Edu was given unlimited funds, like they receive at the Etihad, for example, who knows that we wouldn't have put in, 100 million bid for Jack Grealish's, release clause. And then we wouldn't be complaining, there would be no doubt that Grealish is a better player than Odegaard. I mean,
I'm gonna bring you around.
I mean, there is a debate. I mean, Odegaard is class.
Let me bring you around to the reality, which is obviously that we're not going to get that, are we? We're not going to get the funding of Man City.
No, we're not.
So then we can't sit here and say Arteta is not going to get that money, and so therefore, should we bring in a coach that can do more with what he is going to be given?
Absolutely.
But you would change the coach.
I would totally change the coach. I would have changed him after we lost against Villarreal last season.
Same as
that's when that for me that hurt too much. So that's when I would have flushed and said goodbye to Arteta. The thing is, we are owned by the Kroenkes. So whoever comes in instead of Arteta will have to be the sort of profile that be able to work within that structure. So I do believe that, Edu is doing a good job within that structure, within the Kroenke structure, with the, because, we spent £100 million on this summer. That money hasn't come from the Kroenkes.
No.
It's it's Arsenal, taking out loans. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's Edu and his team, basically who are handling the funds, of the club.
Yeah.
If though I'm not sure how the loan, of course, is structured, but if that loan was completely written off by the Cronkays, for example, and we had another, 100.
Not going to happen.
No,
Not going to happen.
Exactly, Tom.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, we have to be realistic. So, I do believe, that this is going to be a long-term process. I do believe it's going to be, a really hard climb back to the top four. But I do believe Edu is a good technical director, a good person to have in charge, because he's shown it over the past, 3 transfer windows. I believe he's shown it. I'm not convinced.
Then can I come back at you on that then? So because I defend Edu a lot, and I think that there are aspects of his job that he's done very well. But I come back to this. I come back to this point where I go that this window was a real opportunity to improve the centre midfield and to improve the right back area, and he's not done that. So I'm not sure if I describe him as good. I think he's just doing an okay job now.
I think Edu was. I'm going to come back at you again. I think Edu was open to letting Xhaka leave. He was. They were talking to Roma, and I truly believe that they spent the money on that. Who did they buy that striker? Something like £30 million.
Yeah, Tammy Abraham. Yes.
Thank you, Tammy.
Even I forgot for a second.
We should all know. Yeah. So they spent, so they did spend the money on Tammy, to bring Tammy Abraham in. So if they weren't prepared to spend the £50 million or 20 million euros that we wanted for Granit, when Switzerland played against Spain, we could notice how much Switzerland missed him in their midfield. So, and I even believe towards the end of last season when we had to move Granit to the left back position, we kind of missed him as he's slow on the ball, Granit. That's what's terrible about him, but he has got great passing range. I believe, again, I get back to this, again, I'm not convinced that Arteta's the right person to direct these Arsenal players because Petrovic brings more out of Xhaka for Switzerland. And, I'm just not convinced that he's got the experience, and he's let us down too many times, in my opinions, with playing the wrong formation and the wrong players at the wrong, I don't want to go into a rant, but that's why for me the transfer window is positive, and I'm not surprised that despite it being positive, on the pitch hasn't really translated yet. Because for me, that change hasn't happened, and we need to get rid of Arteta.
No, and that's fair enough, and you raised the point really well, James. And look, whilst I may not be on the 8 out of 10 level that you're at, I think we can come to an agreement that we just want the best for the club, which is always the best end goal. Thank you, James, for your time. I really appreciate it, mate.
Thank you so much for having me on, Tom. It was a real pleasure, mate.
No problem at all. I'm sure we'll welcome you back very soon. Thank you, mate. See you again.
Thanks.
Have a good one, James. Thank you ever so much to James and all of my guests. Olu, Hevant, Ilias, Rohit, James, Ben, Cash. Yes, I had to check my notes for a second. There's so many guests on in one show. You can forgive me for getting a couple and trying to think, because honestly, the variety of views is great. I think we definitely leaned into, there was a lot more positive. And maybe that's because, I don't think that's a representative of the fan base, but I think that's probably representative of probably the community that we've got here. And that's always going to have a context affecting kind of the range of guests that we have. I have a lot of respect for Rohit, who comes on and says a completely different point of view to what a lot of the guests have said. And again, I'm always still trying to find an answer. So the question that I've ultimately got is that when someone genuinely thinks that this window has been, say, less than a 5 out of 10, which I think is crazy, really, to think the window has been less than a 5 based upon what we've done and what we've needed to do in the context of what we've needed to do. I can't look at it as lower than a 6. That's where I'm at. I can't look at the window as lower than a 6. The reason it's why it's not higher than a 7 is because it was an opportunity. This window for me, it was an opportunity to improve centre midfield. It was an opportunity to improve right back. maybe there was an opportunity to improve striker, but I don't think that that's the main issue for me. And I look at the centre midfield and I go, look, we've not improved it. Sure, we've improved the depth. Lukonga's come in, really good option at 21 years of age, and maybe one day will be better than Granit Xhaka. Right now, we're speaking honestly, I don't think he is. I don't think he is at this moment in time. I want to give him the minutes. I want to give him more minutes than Granit Xhaka because I want him to become better than Granit Xhaka. There's a difference between, say, you wouldn't play someone over them because they're not better, and you would because you think they've got the potential to become better than them. And I would partner him with Thomas Partey in the future because I want that to become the future partnership. But it was a chance to really, really improve the midfield, and I'm not going to shift from this view because it really was something that we could have done. We could have got a Bruno Guimaraes. We could have got a Guido Rodriguez. We could have got one of these players. I was up for a Ruben Neves. I thought that would have improved our centre midfield. Still at 24, adds leadership, adds quality, adds passing, adds technical skill. It improves us, and we didn't do it. And that is a big, big thing for me. And if we don't get a right back in, it can't go higher than that 6 or 7. It can't be higher than that for me. It really can't, because it's two key areas of the team that desperately, desperately need upgrading on. And I'm concerned that it's not going to happen. I have hope that right back is an area that we're going to address, and maybe if we move on Bellerin. And yes, I am very well aware that we've struggled to move on players, and the age-old question of how do you sell a player that no one wants. The honest answer to that is that you do lower their value in this window. A player like Nketiah with 1 year left on his deal, you lower your asking price. You will lower it to a point where there is genuine interest and you are willing to accept deals. Reece Nelson, you lower it to a level that that you're willing to accept those deals. You players like Nuno Tavares, that's absolutely fine. Got potential, can definitely improve the area. But for me, it's a tricky one. Now, we've got one more guest to invite onto the show today, and he's one of our fantastic members. It's Isowa. How you doing, mate? Are you well? Are you good? Oh, I can't hear you. Why can't I hear you? For some reason, I can hear myself. I can't hear you, Isowa. Check your settings on your microphone quickly. Just while Isowa was sorting himself out, let's go to Iffy in the chat. It says, Sabitzer has gone to Bayern. Very cheap. Bruno Guimaraes.
Yes, sir. You hear me now?
Kamara. Would be massive. I can, mate. Would be massively improvements on us. How you doing, mate? Are you well? Can you hear me? I'm assuming you can.
Yeah, I could hear you very well. Okay.
Awesome. Good stuff.
Can you hear me?
Tell me. Yeah, I can hear you, mate. Your connection's a little bit. We may cut this because your connection's going again, Iso, and we know what it's like with that. But out of 10, window, what were you rating at?
6.5.
Tell me why.
Everything well now? Can you hear me properly?
I can hear you fine. Yeah, go on.
All right. Yeah. 6.5. As I said, because of the clear out, there's no amount of. The players are still here. The players that should be going. Number one should be Xhaka, because he wanted to go to Roma, right, in the Euros. What happened to that? All of a sudden now in the press conference, when Arteta is being grilled on the question on whether Xhaka was the main priority, he's like, yes, he was our main priority. But when was that? Where he was going to the press, and when he got the man of the match in the Euros, he was like, yes, Roma seems like a good place. How can you do that if you are captain material? You should not be surely dissing the club that you're from, that you're about to be captain, or you were captain. So I don't understand the mentality that Arteta has. I like the players that have come in. The recruitment is good, bar just the attacking the striker position, since we got Odegaard and Ramsdale. But if we got a striker, it would have been higher. And if the players that was surplus to requirements didn't go, I would have given him an 8 or 8.5. But the other question that I have is, even though we got a striker and we got players that were not needed, and we sold them to other clubs, I would still have doubts over Arteta actually melding that team and making them one team.
Yeah,
like a proper team.
I can't disagree with that point, because you're where I am, Isoa. We could have added the centre midfielder we needed. We could have added the right back that we needed, like I've been talking about. But I have my reservations about how Arteta is going to progress this team, because I'm watching these games and I'm really struggling to see the improvement, the progression, the process that I've been bashing on about in the past that I thought I could see, because I could see little bits of improvement here and there, but I really am struggling to see it now. So is what you describe a 6.5 out of 10 window? An 8 out of 10 for me would be a right back coming in, and a 10 out of 10 would have been a right back, a centre mid, and getting out all of the deadwood that we needed to get out. That would have been a near perfect, as 9.5, 9.9, whatever you want to call it, as near perfect as it could have been if we'd have gotten a centre mid. Striker may have been a bonus, like we don't know. But even if we'd had that 9.9, I still sit here and I'm like, I just don't know if that was enough to get Arteta to progress us forwards. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I exactly know the sentiment you're coming from, because I think so. Arteta have set a lot of records in the wrong way, not good records. But I think so. I don't wish this upon him, but I think so. He might be one of, if not the only manager in the history of the Premier League that has been given a war chest of 129 or higher over like 2 seasons that actually failed to get the best out of that team. Because if you look at it, Lampard had the transfer ban, and he got the best out of a team that didn't really have anything.
He got him into top 4.
Yeah, got him to top 4, and it was Tammy Abraham, the player that got sold to Roma, that some Arsenal fans didn't want, because of his, I get it, some say of his transfer price, but he's the person who got them to over the level, Lampard. And Lampard was kind of a novice too, like Arteta. They were in the same like recruitment year what they got hired as coaches. So yeah, I think Arteta has a rude awakening coming for him if he doesn't get the best out of this team, because I don't see the pattern of play. I don't see the passes. In the Wenger years, even the most dire of Wenger years, you get to see some football being played, some semblance of a game. Of you have an idea, you have a clear idea of what the players are actually doing. But there's no tactics with Arteta. I don't see. Is it because that he was trying to move from the back 3 to a back 4, and
I genuinely don't know. I don't know what. I do know what. We're clearly trying to use the wide areas. We're clearly trying to throw balls into the box as best we can, and to get a good opportunity to score through those wide areas. But we don't have the personnel, and we're not creating the style of chances from those wide areas that are going to give us the best chance to score.
Yeah.
Look, at the end of the day, I think this would turn into a bit of an echo chamber, to be honest. Me and you going back and forth, agreeing with each other on this. But let me ask you one more thing. We got a week or so left of the window. What's your genuine expectation of what we might see happen?
We might get a right back and transfer deadline day. Some sort of a good serviceable right back might come in. Maybe we sell 2-3 players or terminate the contract. And then that's it. Lacazette, we're going to be depending on Lacazette and Aubameyang to lead the line, and maybe Balogun. The thing is also, even if we cut the players, the squad depth that we have is too high. I don't know, since we don't have any type of Europe competition, like Champions League or Europa, even the conference, whatever league that they call it around. What are the players that need development, like Aziz or Patino or other players like I don't know who else?
Catalan Kurjan, Keita Taylor-Hart.
Balogun. Where would they get the development needed? I mean the extra minutes needed for them to develop. Because Martinelli, I don't know where Martinelli will play.
Neither do I.
Martinelli might be a lost cause. Maybe he would be a player that we'd sell in the end of the window next year, because I don't see any place for him.
Yeah, I can genuinely see us selling Martinelli very soon. Like, I can see him wanting to go. I can see us selling it. And I sit here and go, is that the right? I say, is that the right? I want to see him succeed at Arsenal. Is it really beyond the realms of possibility that that's the wrong decision? Say if you got in, say someone came in with a 30 to 40 million pound bid for Martinelli, and he's not getting close to the team, like he's not getting close to the 11. Is it like it's weird, isn't it? Like it's hard for me to say that I definitely wouldn't consider it. Like I mean, I'm hard to see I'm trying to see the light. There's no light.
There's nothing coming in.
And that's the thing. If Martinelli's not going to get played, and I think that's what people will immediately assume, that we're going, oh yeah, we want to sell him, which is not. I want Martinelli to get as many minutes as possible and succeed and develop. But I just don't see it happening. I don't see him getting the minutes at the moment.
Yeah. Are we wasting young players? You think we're wasting young players?
I don't think we're wasting young players, because I think if you look at the top teams or any teams, like how many 21 and unders are starters in the Premier League sides? It's not as many as we play. It's nowhere near as many as we play.
Exactly. The academy is becoming one of the top 5 or 3 academies in the world. The amount of players they're pumping out each year, it's great. But I don't see where would they fit in, because some might say like we don't have the money or the type of owner as Chelsea or Man City, but still, I don't know. Like, what do we do with the team that we have at hand right now? We're playing so many under 21 players, but we're not getting the results. That's the thing that like frustrates me, and I genuinely think that maybe we have given Emil Smith Rowe the number 10 shirt like too early.
Yeah, there is part of in the back of my mind that I'm worried that we have, and we'll put too much pressure on him and he'll just falter. And now we've got Erdegaard, and you never know, that place could be taken and he might struggle to get minutes. I mean, you look at Man City; they have Phil Foden, like he's the young guy they put in the team. Chelsea, Mount's now 22, Reece James is 21, and they're real quality players. Those guys, with Arsenal, we are in a situation where we are relying on the kids to drag us forward because our experienced players aren't doing it. And when I say experience, I'm talking about players like Pepe is not doing enough at 26. Granit Xhaka's not done enough at 29. We've had to bring in Ben White at 23 off for 50 million because Rob Holding and Pablo Mari aren't good enough. So, and we've had to bring in Ramsdale because we think our 29-year-old goalkeeper Leno is not good enough, and we had to bring in a backup for the money that we did, because it's a backup that has. It's not a backup like Ryan. It's not a backup like Runnison. It's not a backup like Manone. It's a backup that has the potential to become a number one, because we know that our starting keeper's not good enough, and that's why we spent the money that we did. I've been racking my brains trying to work out what we did, and I feel like I've worked it out. But we're missing areas, I'm worried.
Yeah, Leno has a 2-year contract or a 1-year contract, or did he extend it? 2 years. So Ramsdale is 23. He's a perfect age profile to maybe become the number one keeper like in 2 years' time, or even 1 year's time, because of the interview he gave like 1 day ago. He's like, I'm motivated to take the number one shirt away from him right now. So he could become the number one keeper if Leno keeps on making mistakes. But I don't know the amount of play. I mean, the profile of players we're getting. I mean, nobody can say that the Kroenkes, okay, for whatever their faults are. Yes, they have a lot of faults, but nobody can say that they're not spending money and injecting like resources into the club. I mean, last year you got Partey for 50 million. Defensive midfielder, and then this year there's 5 signings that we got. Torreira, you got. Leno, they're spending money. It's not like
Socrates, Lichtsteiner.
Karlstrom, if you want to be, that's the.
No, look, we are improving the way we're spending money. That's not without a shadow of a doubt. We're not improving the way we're recruiting. We're going down a better route, and we are investing in young players. But the problem is that the fan base is not going to wait. The fan base is not patient, because we've been patient for a long, long time. We've waited through lots of mistakes, and that's why we're not going to be patient. And that's going to breed a lot of negativity around the club, and one the club have got to move on from. Anyway, I'm going to have to wrap up the show. So thank you so much for coming on. I've been sitting in this sweatbox of a room with a jumper on for an hour and 43 minutes. But thank you, mate.
It's my fault.
It's not. It's not your fault at all.
I came in late, but it's all good. It's all good. Thanks for the time.
It's all good, bro. No problem. Tell people where they can find you, mate.
Anonymous.
In the Discord server, if you want to find it.
In the Discord server too, yes.
Yeah, there you go. We're one of our fantastic members. Thank you so much, mate. I'll speak to you soon, son.
All right. Thank you, Tom.
Have a good one, bro. Massive thank you to let's get rid of that. There we go. All my guests this evening for being fantastic and providing their views on a really diverse amount of questions about the transfer window and their views on the managers and players. But as I've said, I'm dying of sweat now, sitting here in a jumper in an absolute sweatbox of a room. So I'm going to wrap up. This might be one of the longest shows we've ever done, especially one of the longest shows I've done on my own, really, with just guests coming on here and there. So please do drop a like. Please do show some appreciation as well. And yeah, join up as a member if you'd like to. I really want to get the thoughts and feelings of people that are genuinely do think this is below 5 out of 10. I'm struggling to find people that are willing to speak about it, because people have messaged me saying, look, I don't think the window is higher than a 4. And I'm like, do you want to come on the show and have a chat about it? And it's a no. I'm really want to find people who do think it's a 4 or lower than 5. Like, tell me. I really want to ask you some questions as to why you feel it's that way. Same thing for the 10 out of 10s, because it's nowhere near a 10 out of 10. I don't think anyone really thinks it's a 10 out of 10, but I know plenty of people that think it is a dreadful window. I will speak to you guys soon. Have a fantastic evening, and fingers crossed tomorrow we can find a win at home to Chelsea. It's going to take something special, but fingers crossed we can do it. We've done it before. We've beaten Tuchel once. Let's hope we can do it again. I'll see you tomorrow at 8 a.m. as well for the show, the transfer show. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you guys as always. And as always, up the Arsenal.